We may have lost a battle here today, but we're not going to lose this war. I stand with Trump and the Constitution, and I will never back off that, ever.
He won't back off. He might fall apart. He looks like he's rotting right now. But anyway, he says he's lost a battle, but not the war. I can't speak to the war. We'll have to stay tuned. Let's focus today on the fact that Steve Bannon did lose that battle, and he is now officially guilty of a crime again. We'll see if he gets another pardon, but for right now, he was found guilty earlier today of 2 counts of contempt of Congress for failing to comply with a subpoena issued by the January 6th Select Committee investigating the attack. So he had been called to come in, he refused to do so. I think understandably believing that they wouldn't do anything about it. In some cases, subpoenas being defied have not led to these sorts of indictments. But no, he's now been found guilty. The trial lasted a week. It actually only featured 2 witnesses in the end, and it tested a rarely used criminal statute meant to ensure that people comply with congressional subpoenas. Earlier this month, as he prepared for the trial, Bannon said that he was gonna go medieval on his enemies, but most of his legal arguments were rejected by the trial judge, and he ended up calling no witnesses whatsoever. His argument overall was just that he was following orders and Trump something privilege. And he believed that would work. It didn't. Maybe upon appeal it will. We'll have to stay tuned to find out. But I love this description of when it was actually announced. As he waited for the verdict, Bannon did not show much emotion, fiddling with a black mask on the defense table. His hand went still as guilty was read twice. After the judge dismissed the jury and left the courtroom, Bannon lingered, speaking to his attorneys seemingly lightheartedly before walking into the hallway. I just love the idea that he doesn't want to appear nervous, but he's nervous. His hands are moving, and then it stops. Oh no, I've been found guilty. And this time my buddy isn't president to give me a pardon just yet. Stay tuned, October 21st, the actual sentencing, and we'll get into what sort of time he might be facing. But what do you all think about Steve Bannon, guilty man?
Yeah, I want to come back to his earlier pardon in a second, but there's so many great and funny parts to this. He thanked the jury at one point for convicting him. Well, you know what? It's the first time ever that I agree with Steve Bannon. I'd also like to thank the jury for convicting him. So don't get too excited. It's 30 days. Like that's the minimum. They should, okay. After,
maximum of 1 year.
Yeah.
And a fine. He could owe up to $100,000 that he will ask Trump fans to give to him, and they will readily provide to this con man.
Yeah, that'll lead back into the pardon in a second, the first one. But yeah, I mean, obviously throw the book at him and then subpoena him again. And if he doesn't respond, do this again and again and again, however long it takes. And here's a sentence that has never been spoken to Steve Bannon. Oh, you clean up well.
Oh my God.
Okay, because you'll hear that from time to time for folks, right? Even after Steve Bannon cleans up, they're like, no, that didn't work. That's weird. Okay, and then he says, I'm gonna go medieval on them, and doesn't present any witnesses. Where's the medieval part? And he's like, well, I mean, I did it. Kind of guilty. Okay, if that's your definition of medieval, I'll take it. So, which leads to the core hypocrisy here. When things are not in a court of law where they are held legally accountable, these guys are all tough guys. They're Josh Hawley with the fist raised, right? When it comes to their words mattering and having legal consequences, all of a sudden they're pudding soft. And by the way, that includes Trump. Like Trump is part of the reason was desperate not to lose, and he's desperate to rerun for election, is because he's so worried about being prosecuted criminally. I don't know if Trump's gotten the memo yet. The other side is Democrats. They never do anything. It took them a year and a half to get Steve Bannon in jail for 30 days for telling him to F off for a congressional subpoena. I like what the prosecutor did. She made it personal to the jury. She said, you guys, if you live in DC, and they do obviously, you get parking tickets, right? And you know what happens if you don't pay your parking ticket? People don't just go, don't worry about it. No, there are consequences, right? Yeah. So this is a congressional subpoena. It's not optional. You can't just go, forget about it. Okay, no, this is the consequences. And the jury easily agreed.
Yeah, I think it is a good reminder to everybody in Trump's inner circle that nobody is above the law. And that's an important point that I think we all agree on, at least we should strive for. But I really, what is with him and this, like, that whole part of like Trump's world? Like Seb Gorka's really into this, but with like really antiquated references. Like I'm still hung up on the, like, I'm gonna go medieval thing. Like what is that? Like, Your Honor, I'm about to go sicko mode in this court, so please listen to what I have to say. Like and then doing nothing and follow through. It shows kind of how hollow this is. Like he was holed up in a castle, I think, in Europe for a little bit to try to develop some group of men, and Gorka took some like lifetime pledge to some weird Knights Templar offshoot and wherever he came from. I don't know what it is about them like latching on to this antiquated old world European cultural heritage stuff. There's a white nationalist offshoot from it, but I'm so mystified by all of it, but they seem to really love it and think it somehow holds power here.
Yeah, I actually have an answer for that. It's Duginism. It's this insane Russian philosopher, and who, by the way, believes in fascism, dictatorships, despises democracy, and he literally wants to go medieval, as in back to the medieval ages. And you think like, no, he doesn't mean it literally. No. He says in his writings, no, I mean it quite literally, that progress is a bad thing. Technology has been bad. We have to go backwards about 800 years. And the world's dumbest people like Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson make significant references to Dugin and are fans of Dugin. That's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
I haven't read about Sir Gorka, but I'd be surprised if Gorka wasn't another one of these fools. But of course, anytime given an opportunity, look, it's always the cowards and that bully others when they have the power, right? When Trump was in charge, these guys were the biggest tough guys you've ever seen. Now that he's not in charge, he's I'm gonna go medieval. Well, who's stopping you? Congress wants you to testify. Come in and testify. Trump says the same thing. Well, how come they're not talking about the stolen election? One, because it wasn't stolen. Two, they did talk about it. They talked about the 60 cases you lost and how you had no evidence. Three, you know who could testify on your behalf? You. So why don't you step on up, Donald Trump, Steve Bannon? Otherwise, here's a tall glass of shut up juice, okay? Or 2 strong coffee, either way, all right? Check it out. But I wanna go back to the pardon. Because Bannon got a pardon from Trump before he's leaving office. Now remember, Trump did not give a pardon to Rudy Giuliani, Mo Brooks, and other congressmen that asked for pardons. His own lawyer, John Eastman, they're like, oh, we are all criminals who were trying to do a coup. Can you give us a pardon before you leave? And he's like, no, because he thought that was too speculative, okay? Bannon had ripped off Trump supporters and pretended he was gonna build a private wall and instead laughed about it on a yacht that they purchased with the money. His co-defendants are in jail now. And Trump's like, oh, you get a pardon. You know why? Because he knows that Bannon did it. There was no question, Bannon was guilty, and he had run the same scam that Trump runs, ripping off his own supporters.
Yep.
So that's why Trump was like, no. Of everyone, Bannon's definitely getting a pardon. Okay, and they're lifelong criminals. So this is just the beginning of Bannon getting caught, and even Fox News agrees. Jonathan Turnley, their legal analyst, was like, yeah, he didn't even present a case. It was embarrassing. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.